Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to check out another Takara Tomy release, another Jurassic World Takara Tomy release, as we have the Sinoceratops here to take a look at. And yet again, it feels like they've done a great job of capturing the likeness of the Sinoceratops here with the Takara Tomy release, and they've been really killing it lately, I think, as far as this newest line of Jurassic World figures goes. So far, they have definitely done a great job on every one I've taken a look at. The only one that slightly could have been a complaint would have been the Brachiosaurus, but even the Brachiosaurus with some downsides when it comes to the paint application was still a really nice version of a Jurassic Brachiosaurus, and this one looks to capture, again, the Sinoceratops quite nicely overall, so I'm extremely intrigued to continue on with this line and take a look at this figure. But as far as the box art goes, you can see that we have a very nice image of the Sinoceratops on the front, as well as an image down here kind of giving us a sneak peek of some of the articulation, and then Velociraptor Blue over here, up here on the top. We've got another image of the Sinoceratops, quite a few different images, different angles and everything. The other side also, again, sports some images of the Sinoceratops, same deal over here on this side, and then I'm betting, yep, same thing over here, so this side here is showing us, again, the articulation. So let's go ahead and pop this out of the box and check out this figure. So here is our Takara Tomy Sinoceratops, and what a chunky boy this one is. You can definitely see this one looks very thick, I'll put it that way. And that's kind of, I think, the way that it appeared in Jurassic World, so it makes sense that it would have that thick appearance. And also, I will say that it is a gorgeous looking sculpt. Honestly, they have done, again, a great job of really sculpting out very fine detail, as well as some very nice screen accuracy with the figure. Like, look at the skin detail and the skin wrinkles and everything here on the underside. That is extremely impressive sculpt and detail, and you can see again over here, it looks great as far as both the sculpt and even the paint. Like, I feel like the paint looks really good on this one, which was one complaint that I had about the Brachiosaurus, but it's nice to see that this one, paint-wise, definitely looks very nice. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look at it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Sinoceratops, you can straight away see again how screen accurate the head sculpt is. Like, it really looks like the Sinoceratops did in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, so that is a huge plus as far as the sculpt goes. Like, it does a great job again of replicating that Sinoceratops. Very nice shot right there from the front. You can see it basically looks like it is looking directly at us. But as far as the sculpt goes, again, you could see a ton of really nice detailing throughout. The nostrils are nicely sculpted out there at the tip of the snout. The beak as well is beautifully sculpted out with some nice cracks and crevices. You can also see the nasal horn of our Sinoceratops looks great. There's some nice cracks and crevices included in there as well. You have a nice kind of like a creamy color here, an off-white bordering on a light yellow that comes running up from the snout up near the eye, but then stops before the eye. Pretty smooth transition though, back to that green. The eye itself is painted with a black, nothing more than a black, but it sports a nice realistic gloss coat as well. You can see some beautiful creasing there around the eye, as well as some fantastic skin texture throughout the course of the entire face of the Sinoceratops. As we lead up around the frill, you can see that the spikes leading off of the frill are all painted with that dark gray, which also adds a nice appeal factor to the ceratopsian, because sometimes companies will get lazy, especially when it comes to Jurassic figures, and they just won't even bother painting things like that. But the Takara Tomy one does have the paintwork pretty much everywhere as far as those go, and even on the spikes running down the front of the frill, which means that it definitely looks awesome as far as that goes. Definitely worth it to add that extra paint application. As you lead up into the frill, you can again see how nice and really beautifully sculpted it is. Very nice detailing as far as both the scale detail and just in general the structure of the frill. You can also see those trademark holes in the frill like you see on the Sinoceratops in Jurassic World. And we have those orangish tones that kind of circle around those holes, as well as kind of like some circles here with that off-white that we saw up there on the snout. You can also see that this side of the head looks great. Again, as far as the sculpt and paint goes, the beak is painted with a nice brown, the eye painted with a black. It looks like there might be sort of like something over top of the eye there. I don't think that's something that I can get off. No, it's definitely something to do with the paint, so that eye's got a little something wrong with it, but this eye over here looks really good. As you lead back into the body, you can see a ton of skin creases and skin wrinkles here, running the entire length of the neck from the throat all the way to the top of the neck right here. Again, this is definitely very chunky as far as the way I put it earlier. You can really see the size aspect of the Sinoceratops. If you take a look at the back of the frill as well, you can continue to see some beautiful texturing, beautiful skin detail and scale detail back there. As you lead up here along the back, you start to see some very nice light kind of bluish stripes picking up, and they run along the course of the back of the dinosaur. There is definitely some sloppiness right there. It looks like they literally were just painting it, and then they were like, splotch some paint on there, and who cares? So there's definitely some sloppiness to mine as far as that paintwork right there. A little carelessness, but for the most part, it looks pretty good. And I also like how light the stripes are, so they look, very natural on the figure. As you lead back here into the front leg, you can again see the big bulkiness to the leg, as well as just a ton of skin detail, skin creases and everything. Really nice scale detail moving down the leg. Again, really showing off the chunky aspect to the Sinoceratops. As you lead down into the foot looks really nice, very nicely sculpted out. Toes and nails, but unfortunately no nail paint, which I feel like is pretty shocking. I would have expected nail paint out of this figure. But moving up here into the stomach region, one thing I didn't expect to see would have been the rib cage for how beefy this Sinoceratops is, but you actually can see the rib cage there protruding from the skin a little bit in the stomach region, as well as the skin kind of creasing nicely because both legs are pushing into the stomach. And again, you can see some more of that girth due to those large skin wrinkles there with the legs pushing into the stomach region of the Sinoceratops. We have a lot of nice cracks and crevices in the skin detail as well, which looks really cool. Moving back here into the hip bone, you can see the hip nicely protruding from the skin, as well as the muscle definition moving down the thigh. Extremely large thigh on this very large ceratopsian, and you can see the kneecap present here in the front of the leg, as well as some very nice skin creases there in the joint of the knee, in the back of the knee. And then some more beautiful skin detail, as well as a very nicely elaborated calf muscle moving down toward the bottom of the foot on the rear leg. You can see that the nails kind of appear to have sort of a gloss coat to them, but again, no nail paint. But the foot sculpt definitely looks very nice. And then as you lead back up here, you can see some more nice creasing here right behind the thigh. As you lead out the length of the tail, again, the skin detail looks great. There's no real alternate coloration to the figure at all, though. Once we get out here, it is nothing more than that plain green. The stripes don't even run out onto the tail or anything, so that's a little unfortunate. Again, I think Takara Tomy could really benefit from some dark washes to their figures. It would really amp up the realism. But on the underside, again, you can see more really nice scale detail, as well as some incredible skin detail here with like all of these skin wrinkles. Like there is just a ton going on as far as like saggy skin and creasing and everything here on the underside. Probably some of the most impressive skin detail on this last run of Takara Tomy figures that I've ever seen from this company. And then over here you can see the same similar style of sculpt when it comes to those creases in the neck. You can also see though that this dinosaur is taking a step as the front leg here is lifting up off of the ground. They've captured that very nicely in the sculpt as far as the way the skin would be moving and everything. Very nicely shown off here, as well as that nice curve in the wrist. Beautiful, again, foot sculpt with the very nicely sculpted out toes. And then you can see that we see a little more of the skin over here of the stomach because the skin isn't quite so scrunched up. So you can kind of see it like sagging more over here than pushed together. But at the same time, again, they've done a great job of really nicely sculpting out all of the fine detailing of the skin with a mixture of scales and cracks and crevices. You can again pick up on the rib cage over here, and then moving back into the thigh. Again, the muscle definition is nicely present, just like the hip bone itself is nicely present. And then moving down the leg, you can again see some more beautiful detailing, the kneecap, the calf muscle, all of that stuff, just like we had seen on the initial leg. Very nicely sculpted foot over here, and then again, the nice creasing behind the thigh leading out into the tail, and that extremely nice looking skin detail out here on the tail. But there's no real big difference between the positioning of the legs on this side any more so than the other side, except this leg is picking up. But you can see that the rear legs are almost in the same spot, and this probably would have been in the same spot as this leg as well if it weren't picking up off of the ground. So it's not like moving along quickly or anything, just a nice casual step for our Sinoceratops. But honestly, it is a very nice looking version of the Jurassic World style Sinoceratops, and another extremely impressive Takara Tomy release. As far as articulation goes on our Sinoceratops, you have those trademark Takara Tomy ball joints, but one thing that's good about the Sinoceratops is it almost hides it because of the frill and everything. Like you don't pick up on that ball joint quite so obvious as you do on some other figures, but you can see that you could totally swivel the head upside down if you choose to. You can also move the head up and then down. Not any type of incredible mobility. Maybe if we turned this a little bit somehow, we could probably get a little bit more of a turn. Nah, that's pretty much it. So we can turn the head very nicely to the left and then the right. Let's see if we can get this in a good spot right there, and then turn the head. So now we'll have some nice mobility. There we go. So now we can put the head up pretty high and then put the head down really low, and that can really go down quite low to either feed or take a drink. The swivel here, that ball joint, was in a bad spot to really show off that articulation, but you have that same style of articulation back here in the tail again, the swivel, and then the ability to go up and down. There's not too much that you can really do back there, but the ball joint is a lot more visible back there, I will say that. As far as a size goes, for a length from the tip of that horn, which I'm going to knock him over, from the tip of the horn to the tail, you're looking at about 5¼ inches, or about 13.5 centimeters, somewhere in between that area. And then for a height to the top of the frill, a little over 2 inches or 5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line in comparison to our Takara Tomy Sinoceratops, and this is hopefully going to give you a good idea of the fact that this Sinoceratops falls right in the same size range as pretty much every other Takara Tomy figure so far. They all have that same similar size range, a smaller size overall, kind of, I would say, bordering on minifigure size, but a little bit larger. And for another comparison, here is a Mattel Jurassic World minifigure in comparison to the Takara Tomy Sinoceratops, as well as a Toy Monster International Captives Bumpy figure there in the back in comparison to the Sinoceratops. Again, kind of trying to show you the fact that they are fairly small and similar in size to the minifigures, but obviously a little bit larger than what you would get for most minifigures. For another comparison, here is the Takara Tomy Jurassic World Tyrannosaurus Rex in comparison to the Sinoceratops, showing you that although, it's a Sinoceratops, it definitely sports a pretty good size in comparison to that Rex. Then for another comparison, here is the Amargasaurus in comparison to the Sinoceratops, also showing you again the pretty good size for the Sino overall. And then for another comparison, here is the Spinosaurus who just fell over, the Spinosaurus from the Takara Tomy line, who for some reason isn't standing right now. I must not, there we go, I didn't have his feet in the right spot, I guess. There is the Spinosaurus now next to the Sinoceratops, as well, again giving you a comparison if you have any of these Takara Tomy releases. And then one final comparison is one of the largest, probably actually the largest Takara Tomy figure that they have released that I know of, and that would be the Brachiosaurus that we also have recently reviewed here on the channel. So hopefully you'll have one of these figures at the very least, and you'll have a pretty good idea of the size. So this Takara Tomy Jurassic World Sinoceratops is another really nice release, much nicer than I thought it would be, because it's nicer than the Brachiosaurus. Like, I had really high hopes there for the line after the Amargasaurus and Spinosaurus, but then when I had received the Brachiosaurus, my expectations dropped a little bit because the paint scheme and paint application wasn't all that great on the Brachiosaurus. But now they're kind of up a little bit higher because the Sinoceratops, although not perfect, is still really quite nice. I definitely like the sculpt. I think the sculpt is extremely appealing, really nice and screen accurate, as well as very highly detailed, showing just insane amounts of skin detail, which is something that Takara Tomy seems to be excelling at lately. And it also sports that very nice chunky appearance like you see on the Sinoceratops in Jurassic World. And they've done a pretty good job on the paint application, which is much nicer on this one than the Brachiosaurus. I feel like the paint scheme that they've given it looks pretty much like the Jurassic World Sinoceratops did, about as close as you're going to get when it comes to toy form from Takara Tomy. But they've also done a great job of painting out all of the horns and spikes and stuff on the course of the Sinoceratops, and all of the paint that is applied has a nice realistic appearance to it, I think. Like the stripes down the back, aside from that one area of sloppiness, have a nice subtle addition to the figure. They're really nice and soft as far as the application goes. The kind of creamy color there on the snout is also nice as far as the transition back to the green. So the paint application is pretty nice on this one. It would have been nicer to have some paint on the nails as well, but that's just, a minor complaint, because overall I feel like they did a pretty good job when it comes to the paint application of this one. The articulation is fun, but it's nothing to write home about. It's nothing over the top or crazy. It's just kind of like some standard articulation. Of course, we do have the ball joints, which is definitely not everyone's favorite thing in the world when it comes to the Takara Tomy line. But I don't mind it. I think I'm used to it at this point, and it's kind of become part of their charm. So as a whole, this is a very fun Jurassic World figure from the Takara Tomy line, and another one that I'm really happy to now have here entering my collection. So if you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to where I purchased mine on AliExpress. So make sure you check that link. Go head on over there and purchase yourself this very fun Sinoceratops, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.